So you decided to pick a new character to play in Deadlock, and out of the 32 unique characters that we currently have, you spot a funny little magic man. But there's just one issue. You don't know what he actually does. Don't worry, that's where I come in. Hi, I'm Nova. I'd personally call myself a Sinclair one-trick, so I think I might be able to help other people learn about the character. Here's my playtime on the character. I have about 570 games on him. Decent amount. I know there's people with more, but I'm giving you info. Just take it. Also for the people that do care about the rank, if this is in Descendant 5 lobbies, it does work. Take that as you will. Alright, to start off with, we have our base stats. So for our weapon stats, we have about 48 damage per second with 18 damage per bullet. We fire pretty slowly, but if you can't hit those shots early game, it is worth. In the long run, though, I personally don't think gun is too viable for this character unless you're building for max assistant with the fire rate. But I feel like you're giving a lot of trade-off for the other kits. Going into vitality, we have 700 max health with 2 natural regen, about 7.2 move speed, CM with spirit, which we love. Spirit is huge with this character, and 1.6 sprint speed with 3 stamina. Alright, so moving on into the abilities, we have our first ability, the Vexing Bolt. Description states, fire a bolt of magic that deals spirit damage, increasing as it travels. If you have an assistant, they also cast Vexing Bolt at reduced damage, and you can press the ability button again to redirect the bolt back towards your crosshair. And it lists the minimum maximum damage. So basically how the bolt works is that if you fire it instantly at the ground and hit something, that's your minimum damage. That's what you're always doing. But if you let the bolt travel for 2 seconds, you'll get the build up slowly until you get to the max damage. And that's what you're really aiming for. The max damage is where all the damage is coming from. See here, it nearly doubles at the beginning. When the assistant fires an orb, it will only do half the amount of damage until you get max orb. So we want to be getting that as fast as can. Alright, so for the tier 1 of bolt, the bolts can apply minus 25% fire rate for 5 seconds on enemies hit, which is very nice for those early contests on gun-heavy lanes. Tier 2 gets it to minus 13 second cooldown, which is massive. Again, starting off the game with a 24-second cooldown on this is very rough, so we want to get that down as fast as we can. And then finally, the tier 3 increases our max damage on the orb travel itself, and also allows our assistant to do full damage on the orb, which is what we really want. On to the next ability, the Spectral Assistant, your second ability. Summon an assistant at the target location. The assistant attacks whenever you fire your weapon, dealing spirit damage. While the assistant is out, you can press the ability button again to swap positions with your assistant. And then in a little gray text there. Casting Spectral Assistant also reloads your weapon, which I feel like is a small niche that not a lot of people know about. And it has a 15-meter range to place out. After you place it, there's no range. And then it has a default 40-second cooldown. It does 15 damage base, but it scales with spirit. And then duration base 6 seconds with 2 max swaps. That's permanent. Can't increase that at all. And then onto the tiers. Tier 1 upgrade for this gives it minus 10 second cooldown, which is pretty nice. We like to get that pretty early on in lane, so we can have that a bit more. Tier 2 gives you 7 seconds duration and 5-meter range. And then max assistant will give you plus 60% fire rate and 12.6 assistant damage. That's why I think the Spectral Assistant is very good if you want to do bullet builds, because it does give a lot of fire rate, and the assistant will be doing a lot of damage, and it has very good aim. It will pretty much always be hitting its target if you're in a general area around the person with their crosshair. Into the third ability, the Rabbit Hex. It has a 24-meter range throwing it out, and it is a 30-second cooldown. Hex the target area and transform all enemies into a rabbit for a limited duration. Rabbits are small and move faster, but take increased damage and are unable to perform most action. And the Hex doesn't interrupt abilities, so anything that's channeled or already happening will finish. So like say a punch or a parry, for example, those will still go through even if they are a rabbit. The Hex duration default lasts for 2 seconds and will give a 15% amp to any damage that's applied, physical or spirit. But this also scales to spirit. The rabbits or the people who get turned into rabbits, they will have a 36% move speed bonus. So it is a bit of a trade-off. They'll take more damage, but they'll also be faster, so harder to hit. The circle itself will be 6-meter radius. So that's your default range for hitting a rabbit. And onto the tiers. Tier 1, minus 10 second cooldown. We always love the cooldown reduction abilities. Tier 2 gives you 1 second duration extended onto the Rabbit Hex, so it'll become 3 second default for the rabbits. And then max rabbit will give plus 7% damage amp and plus 3-meter radius, which is just very good. The rabbit in itself, I think, is a game changer for a lot of games if you have teams that can follow up on it. So just make sure you're giving good comms to the rest of your team on what's happening, where you're putting it, and who's a rabbit. Onto our final ability, the 4 ability, our ultimate. Copy the ultimate of another hero for a limited time. Reactivating the ability will use the copied ultimate. So we have a 20-meter range for this, so you have 20-meter distance to copy default. We can keep the copied ult for 12 seconds, and then when we use that ult, the main hitter for this character is that we only take 40% of that cooldown. So if the enemy's ultimate is a 100-second long cooldown, we will only have 40 seconds, which makes it very good for us to just take an ult in a fight, use it, because we'll always have it back before the enemy team. And the upgrade system for this is also very simple. Every time you put a point into your ult, any ult you steal, it basically has that leveled up version. So it's very good to be putting points into this, even if you don't know what you're going to steal, because ults are very good in this game. So a little more information on the Vexing Bolt, because I know a lot of people get thrown off by it, but it does have some level of auto aim where you're pinging it. So as we mentioned before, the bolt will try to redirect wherever you ping your crosshair when you press the ability again. It will try to ping onto enemies as well if you hit them with it. So you always want to make sure you're aimed at least on an enemy. But it's also very interesting how Deadlock decided to do the hitboxes for the players, because for some reason, if you imagine a player with a vertical hitbox, the vertical hitbox will go all the way underground as far as it can down, so you can, for example, ping an orb onto their feet like way under the ground, and it will still try to lock on to their player icon. So this Abrams way over there, we'll just aim a little bit down, it'll still try to go to them. And then I believe it was the same way a little above them, but the distance above you can lock on depends a little on your distance. So like if I try to aim way up here for this Abrams, it won't lock. But if I'm right above his head, it will. But for this Abrams in the middle, I can probably try to run there. It'll hit. And this one way back here doesn't really matter. I can go pretty far above and it'll pull back down to him. But I still think the best way to hit your orbs is just to try to be on the character. Probably aim at their feet. That's the most reliable way I've gotten it to work. Because if you aim at them, they'll probably move out of the way and it'll just be a mess. Another pretty big fact about Sinclair's Vexing Bolt is that the bolts actually can lock on through walls. So it doesn't matter if you have line of sight. If your crosshair is anywhere on their hitbox, no matter what's in between them, it will try to lock onto them. So for example, we know the Abrams is kind of chilling behind this wall right here. We can throw the orb right there and ping it, and it will track towards the Abrams. And like we mentioned earlier, there is the area on the map you can kind of ping it to as well. It'll go to them as well. So whatever you want to do, I personally will always just try to guess where they are on the map by standing, because that's just how I remember the map, and go from there. And more in depth on the assistant as well. You have your, I believe it was, what, 15-meter range to place it out. Once you place it, you can now shoot at a target, and it will deal spirit damage. And you can notice it as well. Here, let me, I'll buy some duration as well, so you can see it a bit more. But you don't even have to be aimed perfectly on a character for it to try to hit. Like, there's a lot of leniency on being near a character for them to actually hit. They just have to kind of be in the general area, thinking that you're shooting at them. They'll try their best to hit them. You also have your swap ability, which is one of Sinclair's greatest magic tricks in the game, because it gives you very good positioning, get in, get out tool. Get in very risky areas, teleport out, and now your assistant's even in an even better spot for dealing damage while you're safe in the back line, just getting your bolts out for free. Another reason for why the assistant is so powerful is just because of how it can pretty much double your damage. So just to show this, we will get one max, we'll get the max orb, no cooldown, and we'll go for this Abrams in the back to make sure we get the max damage build up. So that's about 292 damage. But now put down the assistant, pretty much stay at the same range, level of travel, 583. So just getting the assistant to throw the tier 3 orb, which makes it do full damage, is huge for us, and it makes all of our damage pretty much doubled. Because of the Vexing Bolt's travel time limitation on needing those 2 seconds a lot to get the max damage, it is pretty important that Sinclair has good positioning in the game, because obviously if you're just right on top of the enemy, you're not going to be able to build up max damage, and if you are, you're going to have to send the bolt away, bring it back, and by that point, enemy knows what you're trying to do. They'll just get out of the way. So that's why a lot of times you'll see Sinclair way in the back with his assistant, throwing out orbs, getting max damage, And then if he ever gets dove upon, he can just run a bit away, teleport back to the assistant, and then he'll be scot-free. And then for that latest patch, you get another teleport. Makes the whole world, because now people can't just turn and look at the assistant instantly. They have to kind of play a bit of a mind game of, will he teleport again, or can I chase him? And it's just very good escape tool for Sinclair. Also, getting high ground and holding it is very nice, because it has to force the enemy to either come and push you off that high ground or just seek cover where the rest of your team can hopefully separate them and pick them off. Something else to note with the assistant is that it doesn't matter if it's placed on the ground. If you teleport it, it will always take your exact location of where you teleported from, even if that is in the air. It doesn't care. It'll stay floating there, and it will keep shooting orbs. And also, when you shoot an orb, it's not looking for the direction. It's looking for the target. So if I have the assistant placed over here, and I try shooting at this little super gray right here, the assistant will also be aiming at that. It won't be aiming like at the ground. So I can easily be shooting at any target. Even if I'm not directly on top of my assistant, it will go towards it. But it is advised to be kind of standing where your assistant is, because it means that your bolts will be kind of hitting at the same time. Your enemy won't be able to delay dodge it. Because say, for example, my assistant's way over here, I'm standing over here, and I want to hit this Abrams in the back. Probably wasn't the best example. Here, I'll do this instead. If I want to hit this Abrams now, I throw out the orb, and the second orb comes in about a second or two later, which is probably not the best for us. So we want to be making sure those orbs kind of come at the same time. And once again, the 3 ability are Rabbit Hex, small circle on the ground. Pretty easy to see for us where we're placing it. You throw it down, about a second delay, and the enemy will be turned into a rabbit for a couple seconds, but they get move speed. So they become a smaller target, but it's very worth the hit. And just the fact that it also makes them unable to do anything for that small amount of time, and especially in the late game where death retimers take like minutes, it's very good to get those picks off. And pretty much to be able to use the ult, you kind of have to understand every other character's ult in the game, but I've also compiled a bit of a fun fact for each of the characters' ult in the game and how it interacts with Sinclair in this video in a later section, so look forward to that. All right, into the next section, which is the build in my personal play style. This is my build, Nova Sinclair. Build ID is 261258 for anybody who's interested in using it. I've used it for all my games, and I think it works quite well for me, so I hope it does for you guys as well. The general gist is getting to our 4.8k spirit investment early, because that's where we're going to get a lot of our power from. So we get extra charge just so we can have more bolts, more damage. Pretty self-explanatory. I like to get improved spirit right after that, just to get the spirit power and out of combat regen. And then rapid recharge is where we're mainly getting our stuff from. Recently got nerfed. I still think it's very worth though. You have to get it with this character if you're doing bolt build. It's just kind of an essential. Next up, I always get trophy collector. Now, some people might think that it's not worth it because it's not paying for itself, but if you're buying any other item, it's not paying for itself either, so that logic doesn't really stand for me. I don't get it. But with this item, you're getting 2 meter sprint speed by default and 4 out of combat regen. Already sounds great. You could be buying enduring speed for 2 move speed, which pretty much same item, just 1600 points more. But every time you get a kill or assist, you're getting 20 extra health, 0.2 move speed, or sprint speed, I should say. 1% ability range, which is very important later on for our rabbits. And then souls per minute, it's kind of meh. But I think this item is slept on with this character, and people are starting to move away from it, but I still think it is very good to have. I've been messing around with enduring speed as well, just to have that little extra bit early on. I think you're able to sell this later on if you get enough trophy stacks that you don't need it anymore and you need more slots. You would think that you'd want to imbue the Mystic Expansion on your rabbits, but you actually want to imbue your Vexing Bolt, because those tier 1 camps early on, you can't actually hit all 3 of the minions, or denizens, I think they're called, with your orb without this ability range upgrade, so you want to get that for that. I like to get compressed cooldown for the bolt as well, since that is, once again, our main damage dealer. We have also got some extra optional defenses. Just any game you might need these. Optional offenses as well. Just pick them as you see it come. Onto the core. This is what you're going to be picking up after you're kind of done with your lane phase. Everybody's into their roaming section. I have Enchanter's Emblem still because I still think having the 15% Spirit Resist and the Spirit Power and ability cooldown is just very broken for a 1600 item. I think it's crazy that this hasn't been changed much. And then we get Veil Walker as well, just to be able to pull off some very nice rotations, escapes, and good plays with it all around. Surge of Power is also necessary for this build as it gives your one imbued ability Spirit Power and move speed as well. So we love this item. Spirit Duration, or cooldown I should say, is just great for all of our items because we want to have all of our abilities up as much as possible because they're all very good game changers. I'm going to start messing around with Magic Carpet more. I haven't played with this in a build yet, but from what I could tell, between buying Magic Carpet and Boundless first was only a difference of like 10 Spirit Power. So I think it's worth saving for Magic Carpet first so that you can get the ability duration and Spirit Power and just have the ability to rotate anywhere on the map. It just makes it great for getting out of tough situations if Veil Walker or your assistant can't get you out. And then we'll get Boundless Spirit. Once again, more Spirit is just more damage and even more assistant damage, more damage amp for your rabbits because that actually scales with Spirit, which is great. Greater expansion. At this point in the game, when you buy this, I typically get max rabbit first, but it also depends on the type of team you're up against. You could be doing ults or rabbits focused builds after your bolt. I typically get rabbit just because I think it's worth. If you get a lot of trophy stacks, greater expansion, and your upgraded rabbit where it gets the 3-meter radius, the rabbits will be taking up the whole fight and everybody turns into rabbit and it can be a game win. Spirit Duration, I don't end up buying it a lot of time just because the game usually ends before then, but you can pick that up. And then there's also more optional late game choices here. You have your damage items mainly at the top. Unstoppable for if you're playing against a Dynamo or a Lash and you need to be able to contest their Dynamo ult by using Unstoppable, jumping in theirs and canceling it. Just very good items to be looking at if you're in those type of matches. All right, now that we've got the build out of the way, we can kind of get into the way I play the characters. For that, I'll go ahead and buy a little bit into the game. So we'll buy just up until Veil Walker, we'll say. So currently, trophy stacks is at 0, and you can see on the left here, I'm at 14 move speed after you get to that full sprint speed cap. But once you hit your Veil Walk, you get up to 17. And from what I could tell, here, I'll get Surge of Power as well to show. Surge of Power plus your Veil Walk, and you're kind of looking at around 20 meters a second. I think it's kind of slowing me down because I'm near these enemies right here. But once you get Surge of Power and your Veil Walk, you'll get enough speed to kind of be around anywhere on the map that you need to be. And speed is kind of ideal in this build if you haven't already gotten that already, because we want to be able to get to a fight, get our trophy stack, put down our rabbit, and then get to the next fight. Because getting a rabbit or even just being anywhere near a fight gives you an assist, and that's another point to your trophy stack, which means you're moving faster, you have more ability range, and you have more health, and it's just an all-around win for us. Why is speed so important? Well, Sinclair, in my mind, is one of the best lane pushers in the game. He has the assistant to escape. If he ever needs it, he'll just push up a lane, shoot out minions, get a tower if he wants. If anybody tries to contest him, he just dashes back. If he wants to push a guardian, he can. He just walks up to it, puts down the assistant. It's going to be doing a lot of damage with the bolt. Look at that, 4,700 bout damage. And we're only at 20,000 souls right now. I know the abilities are maxed out, but we get max orb in lane phase. So being able to deal that much damage is just very nice to us. And the fact that we also run Surge Power and Veil Walk means that we can easily get out of any situation that's pretty much thrown at us. One of my favorite tricks that I've loved to do with Sinclair, I'll turn off cooldowns for this just to showcase it. If you get engaged, let's say, and you are having a really tough time getting out, you're getting low, you throw out your assistant, you run through a veil, you can teleport to your assistant with your Veil Walk and it won't cancel the Veil Walk. So the enemy will kind of just lose track of you and think you still are around that veil, and just they'll lose you. I've gone out many times at 1 HP due to this. You can push a walker for free basically because a lot of the walkers have veils. You're right next to them. Push it, get out, and you're just living free. That's why speed is so important in this build, just to get into those fights, get your objectives, and get out. Get to a better position where you can set up your assistant, get your bolt shots, get your rabbit, find a good ult, and that's the main playstyle that I'm doing. I'm running around the map, trying to think about what ult can I grab that's going to help the team. Can I grab a build that helps me, or should I help the hyper carry on the team with like a Dynamo or a Lash ult, set them up? That's what you need to be thinking about, not just I need to go farm this side of the map the whole game so that I can be powerful. You're engaging fights as Sinclair. You are there to assist most of the time. You're not going for sole kill, because if the enemy wants to kill you and they know how Sinclair works, they're just going to get close to you, and that's not what Sinclair wants. Sinclair wants to be a bit back at range so that we can once again get the max build of damage on the board. Alright, for this next section, we are going to move into how you can use other characters' ults with Sinclair and their quirks to it. For Abrams, you can place down your assistant before ulting, and then when you're about to crash down, you can teleport back to it to get an unexpected slam. For Bebop, you can steal his ult, and then use it and cancel it instantly to get back your Magician's ult. You can also teleport while channeling Bebop's ult to get different angles. For Billy, just make sure to rabbit feet at the end of your ult to get a free rabbit on whoever you drag in. Calico's ult is already really nice since it will give you invulnerability and move speed, but at tier 3 it can also give you back all of your cooldowns, which is perfect for us. For Doorman, there is only one Baroness, so you can actually have 2 people in it at the same time and make them have a 1v1. Although your teammate might not be so appreciative if they are low health from the Baroness. Drifter's ult is pretty straightforward. You can just counter blind so that both teams are blind at the same time. They can't really capitalize on it. Or just use it to get away. Just like how Dynamo players can sometimes buy Warp Stone to get a good position, we can use our assistant to teleport in right before we Dynamo ult. For Grey Talon, we can actually get the same permanent spirit power buff for getting a kill with Word. For Haze, just don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't ever do it. For Holiday, you can actually extend the range of which you kidnap people by putting your assistant down, teleporting right as the lasso connects with them. For Infernus, use your assistant to try to get closer to people so that they don't dodge your combustion. Ivy's ult is just a great tool in general for rotating around the map, but you should also know, ignore that snowball. You can teleport to your assistant to dodge any enemies that might be shooting you when you're taking off. Something fun to do with Kelvin ult is to actually put your assistant down in an area outside of where the dome would be. Put it down and you can just trap enemies and give you some free time to escape. For Geist, you can actually plan for her to swap health with you and just swap your health right back. For Lash, you can actually set yourself up by putting down your assistant before you go in the air, and then throw the enemies towards your assistant, teleport, and then rabbit the ground right where they land. For McGinnis, our items just kind of build naturally into it, so we do a lot of spear damage from range. It works out for us. For Mina, use her ult to silence other people's abilities. Don't try to 1v1 Mina with this ult because she gets love bites and you do not, therefore she will outdamage you. For Mirage, just use his ult the same way he would to teleport across the map, but you can also use your assistant to swap places while channeling to dodge some incoming bullets. For Mo, you can use his ult to kidnap people with your assistant by using the ult and the assistant pretty much at the same time to drag them away. For Paige, I like to take her ult and then teleport to my assistant to get a bit more range to then throw the horses back to a team fight to heal and stun enemies. For Paradox, you actually get an 80% spirit lifesteal, so if you really need it, you can time it so that when you Paradox ult and you throw orbs at the same time, you can make the orb damage turn into your spirit lifesteal. For Pocket, you can use the assistant to get right into a team and then Pocket ult without them knowing. For 7, there's not much you can actually do with it, but our items build into 7 ult anyway, so it works out. Shiv ult works a little differently with Sinclair, since you can't actually execute Shiv due to some issue with his bloodletting ability, but you can execute other characters. For Victor, don't be afraid to just steal his ult to get your health back. For us, since we take 40% of the ult cooldown, it's actually very short for us, at around a minute. For Vindicta, we can actually use the soul gaining ability with the snipe execute, and it's also a great ability to follow up with our bolts if we get them down to 1 health. For Viscous, you can actually use your assistant swap ability even if you don't have max level ball to teleport. For For Viper, you can actually apply status effects to stunned people, so you can get a free rabbit on petrified statues. For Warden, use your assistant to chase down enemies with your Warden ult, since they get a little bit time to run away when you're charging up the ult. For Wraith, you can set up some pretty nice combos with Wraith ult, since they will be immobilized and cancel anything they're using. For Yamato, they have a perfect ult to use during teamfights, since you can actually just use all of your abilities, then use the Yamato ult to get all those abilities right back. And that is my guide on how to play Sinclair in Deadlock. And all I ask is that if you enjoyed, if this helped you at all, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. It really helps me a lot. And yeah, I hope this helps. Have a good one.